I've so loved talking to you about books and gardens, and now would you like to take a walk through the gardens? Come on, let's see. We'll start with the Bradford pears that are in bloom right behind me. So let's head this way. This Bradford pear is one of my favorite trees in the yard because when my grandsons were really little boys, this was their favorite climbing tree. And it was such fun. If the boys went missing, I knew I could find them up this Bradford pear tree. I'm very lucky that it survived all the years. I've been in this house nearly 20 years. The Bradford pear is known for splitting in half, but this old baby has been with me the entire time, and I love it. Next, I'd love for you to see the forsythia. So let's head this way down the driveway. I love this time of year, as I've said before, and this is one of the most spectacular when we have this entire bank of yellow. When you come into my driveway, it simply takes your breath away. It takes mine away every time. But the old-fashioned name for forsythia is yellow bale. Each little blossom, if you pick it and hold it up, that way it's shaped precisely like a tiny little bell. If it had a clapper, you could almost ring it. But look at this bank. Of course, as my mother told me, it did spread, and it spread significantly. But you can see the individual bushes. I dug each bush and planted each one. When they first came up, I had a small patch of yellow, and now I have this wonderland of yellow. I can get lost in here, and sometimes wish I could. If I could actually run away and hide in the forsythia. See how wonderfully enormous this is? It's a fairy tale. If I were a little girl, I would be bringing dolls in here and playing, having a tea party in the forsythia. And my granddaughters were young, they would bring their dolls and their little cookies and whatever, Gigi, they called me Gigi, whatever I had given them to play with. And they would hide among the branches of the forsythia and play. One day they told me they had seen fairies down here, and they asked could we feed the fairies, and I said yes. What do they eat? And the girls said popcorn. So we popped a big bag of corn, and the girls showed me exactly where to feed the fairies. So unbeknownst to the girls, my chocolate lab Jefferson was trailing along behind, eating the popcorn as we placed it out. Finally, the oldest granddaughter, Cecilia, said, "Oh, look, the fairies have already eaten." I said, "Oh, yes," and I hurried them around the corner so they wouldn't see that it was actually Jefferson who had eaten the popcorn and not the fairies. But hey, I still believe in fairies, don't you? Here we are in a garden that needs a lot of maintenance at the moment, but this was entirely an empty space when I first moved here. The only thing I had was that ancient park bench, which I simply loved. I love that park bench. The first thing I did was wait until fall and start planting bulbs. You will see the big King Alfred daffodil. You'll see a lot of the hybrid, but also you will see some of these very fragrant narcissus. Ooh, I love that scent. This actually, I dug the bulbs from Mama's house and planted a lot of her daffodils in the spring. Oh, I love this tiny little, this is lily of the valley, this tiny little bell-shaped white blossom. Also, it came from my mother's house. This reminds me of the song, the gospel song, The Lily of the Valley. Most of you know, if you've read my novels or been around me at all, that I'm I'm a great lover of music. I play piano. I sing at First Methodist Choir. And I actually started playing for church services when I was only 8 years old. Little bitty country church. I knew two songs, Bringing in the Sheaves, which some of my little characters have called Bringing in the Sheets. And I also knew What a Friend We Have in Jesus. So I played those two songs every Sunday, and every Sunday all the congregation would come and say, "Oh, Peggy, that was just wonderful. You are so smart. You can do anything." So I believed it, and I've never ever stopped believing that I can do anything. And if I forget, I come down in the spring and see the little lily of the valley, and I remember that story. I remember all those good people who told that to